What's up, everyone? Ice Young here for Yahoo Sports, and joined today by honestly, one of my favorite players to watch growing up. She's a two-time WNBA MVP.
What if the future of women's basketball isn't a rivalry at all, but a secret merger nobody is ready to admit? Because behind polite press quotes and smiling league presidents, the WNBA and Unrivaled may already be circling the same inevitable collision point. The public story sounds calm, strategic, optimistic, but behind closed doors, the question of whether Unrivaled and the WNBA will ever join forces is not a casual what if. It's a pressure cooker conversation driven by money, power, leverage, timing, and it's getting louder by the month. When Unrivaled president Alex Bazell refused to rule out a blockbuster agreement, the wording was deliberate, not defensive, not dismissive, carefully open-ended. In league politics, that kind of language is rarely accidental. It's the kind of answer executives give when they know the ground is shifting but can't yet say how fast or in which direction.
I'm doing well. I am in Los Angeles, which is home, and I'm hoping my kids keep quiet because we have two little ones, so don't mind if my...
Unrivaled was never designed to exist quietly alongside the WNBA. From day one, it positioned itself as something disruptive but complementary, a domestic alternative to overseas play, a league that centered player equity, scheduling flexibility, and ownership participation. Publicly, the messaging emphasized growing the ecosystem. Privately, insiders describe early conversations with the WNBA as tense, cautious, and far more political than fans were ever told. The September approach to the WNBA wasn't symbolic. It wasn't exploratory small talk. It was an attempt to formalize coexistence before competition hardened into rivalry. That proposal was declined. And while no one involved has gone on record detailing why, the refusal itself sent a message. The WNBA was not ready to legitimize a parallel power structure during its most sensitive economic transition in decades.
Talk about the two kids. You have a 2-year-old. You've been so involved in the game, like through multiple roles in the broadcast, but also in business. So how has that been?
Everything's been great. I mean, obviously this summer was a little tough.
That rejection didn't end the conversation. It froze it. And now the ice is cracking. Women's basketball is no longer operating in a scarcity mindset. Television deals are growing. Attendance records are being broken. Sponsorship money is flowing in ways that would have been unthinkable just 5 years ago. With that growth comes congestion, too many leagues, too many contracts, too many promises chasing the same finite group of elite players.
Adjustment. And took a little break from the game and couldn't watch it because it was just too new, but I can't stay away from the game very long, so I think it was like mid-June is when I finally...
Unrivaled existence accelerated a question the WNBA had long postponed. How long can off-season leagues thrive before the main league demands exclusivity? Historically, but players filled the gap by going overseas. That arrangement benefited everyone. Teams saved money, players earned more, and no domestic competitor threatened the WNBA's authority. Unrivaled changed that balance overnight. The moment players could make serious money at home, under player-friendly conditions, the WNBA lost a degree of control it never had to fight for before. That's why the idea of collaboration has always been more complicated than press releases suggest. Partnership would mean acknowledgement, and acknowledgement would mean sharing influence.
Women's basketball league that's coming in January, and I feel like it competes with the W in a number of ways, just being a pro league, but also salaries, equity, and the TV deal that it just got with a broadcast that you're very familiar with.
Now enter Project B. The planned traveling 5-on-5 league isn't just another off-season option. It represents something more dangerous: fragmentation. With Alyssa Thomas and Jewell Loyd already committed, Project B signals that elite players are no longer content choosing between WNBA plus one. They want leverage, they want optionality, and they're willing to spread it across multiple platforms if that's what it takes. This is where things get uncomfortable for everyone involved. If the WNBA eventually offers salaries high enough to justify exclusivity, it will need to protect its calendar. That protection would inevitably squeeze Unrivaled, Athletes Unlimited, Project B, and any future league that hasn't yet announced itself. But if exclusivity comes too early, before players feel adequately compensated, the backlash could be severe, especially with a union already locked in contentious CBA negotiations. Those negotiations are not just about pay, they're about power windows, about who controls player time, about whether off-season leagues are viewed as partners, threats, or expendable experiments. The outcome of the next CBA may quietly determine whether Unrivaled becomes a long-term fixture or a transitional disruptor.
And you're challenging, and it's what it is, competition. And so I think it's going to force the WNBA to look at themselves and figure out what they can do better.
Unrivaled, for its part, isn't operating from a position of desperation. The oversubscribed Series B investment valuing the league at $340 million sent a clear message. Sirius Capital believes in this model. The $27 million in inaugural season revenue silenced skeptics who dismissed the league as hype-driven. Expansion to 8 teams, increased arena capacity, a 4th weekly night of games, and the elimination of back-to-backs all showed operational confidence, not survival mode. But strength doesn't eliminate vulnerability, it just changes the type of risk. The loss of star power, Sabrina Ionescu, Angel Reese, and Jewell Loyd wasn't just a roster issue, it was a perception hit. In a league built on visibility and momentum, every high-profile exit feeds speculation about sustainability. Napheesa Collier's injury added another layer of uncertainty, reminding everyone how fragile even the best-laid plans can be in a sport where health dictates headlines. And then there's the uncomfortable truth nobody likes to say out loud. Women's basketball doesn't yet have the luxury of infinite competition. The audience is growing, but it's not limitless. Fragmentation risks diluting storylines, confusing casual fans, and stretching broadcast interest too thin. That reality makes collaboration sound less like idealism and more like necessity, which brings us back to the question no one wants to answer publicly. What would a WNBA Unrivaled alignment actually looks like? A merger is unlikely in the traditional sense. Too many governance issues, too many ownership conflicts, too much history, but shared scheduling windows, cross-promotion agreements, player transfer frameworks, or even partial equity arrangements are no longer far-fetched. The NBA's evolving approach to Europe, once unthinkable, now actively discussed, provides a blueprint for how informal partnerships can gradually become structural realities. Bazel's reference to NBA Europe wasn't casual, it was illustrative, a reminder that today's impossibility is often tomorrow's precedent. There's also old tea resurfacing in league circles, whispers that early Unrivaled investor decks explicitly modeled scenarios where WNBA cooperation increased long-term valuation, not diminished it. Those models assumed a future where fans no longer saw leagues as competitors but as chapters in a year-round narrative. Whether the WNBA was meant to be a partner or a gravitational force absorbing others remains an open question. What complicates everything is timing. The WNBA is negotiating from a position of rising leverage, but not complete security. Unrivaled is expanding rapidly, but still dependent on star participation and sustained investor confidence. Project B hasn't launched yet, but its salary promises are already reshaping player expectations. Everyone is powerful enough to disrupt, but not powerful enough to dominate. That stalemate creates strange incentives. If the WNBA waits too long, it risks losing cultural centrality. If it moves too fast toward exclusivity, it risks alienating players and fans who value flexibility. If Unrivaled pushes too aggressively, it risks provoking defensive consolidation. If it plays too cautiously, it risks being outflanked by newer, louder entrants. This is why speculation about collaboration keeps resurfacing despite repeated denials. Because structurally, cooperation solves more problems than it creates, even if politically it's uncomfortable. There's also the human element. Many of the same players driving Unrivaled's success are central figures in the WNBA's future. They don't want to choose sides, they want options, and leagues that ignore that reality tend to lose talent, not loyalty. Behind the scenes, sources describe a growing acknowledgement that the current ecosystem isn't sustainable in its present form, not because demand is weak, but because it's finally strong enough to require coordination. Growth without structure eventually collapses under its own weight. The shocking part is that they may not have a choice. Every new league announcement, every salary escalation, every CBA stalemate tightens the knot. Collaboration may not come in the form fans expect, or on a timeline anyone publicly endorses, but the refusal to rule it out is itself a signal, one that suggests inevitability rather than curiosity. This isn't about pride anymore, it's about control of the future, and the longer the ecosystem crowds itself with ambition, the more likely it becomes that the smartest move isn't competition at all, but consolidation disguised as cooperation. Women's basketball is growing too fast to stay divided forever, and when the dust settles, the biggest shock may be who decided to stand together instead of alone.